What's going on, fight fans, and welcome back to the podcast. Ryan and Greg here, as always. Excited to have our next guest on the show here today. It's the Moose, Jackson McVey, who picked up a round one submission victory over Jaquiz Williams this past weekend at Shamrock FC. Jackson, first off, congrats on the win, man. It's a big win. Another round one victory for yourself. How are you feeling right now? Now that you had a few days to digest it.
I'm feeling pretty good. You know, overall, I'm very happy with the performance. You know, I felt very very calm, very I felt like I was finally trusting myself when I was in the cage that time. So it was really nice to be able to do that.
Well, there wasn't a whole lot of tape to dissect here, right? You got him out of there pretty quick. I just wanted to know, I guess, the overall game plan going in, because it looked like you were implementing a lot of kicks early on. I mean, that led to the knee, which ultimately led to the submission. What was the game plan to kind of keep him at range and utilize your length?
Well, you know, so originally I was scheduled to fight a different fighter, but I think like a week before fight week, the promotion and my manager let me know, hey, the guy hasn't responded to any of their texts or messages or anything like that, so we're gonna have to look for somebody different. Jaquiz Williams stepped up on a week's notice, took the fight. So really there wasn't a huge game plan going into it. It was more so fighting to the best of my abilities, right? So I enjoy throwing kicks. I enjoy, you know, being long and rangy because I am 6'4". That's just going to be a part of my game. And, you know, the submission, I've been doing jujitsu since I was 13 years old. And that's just another thing that's one of my go-tos.
You know, one thing that kind of stood out to me, and I have to commend you on this, because you see like a lot of fighters, especially early on in their pro career. I mean, it's so important to start off strong. I mean, you got a great record, but you don't see a lot of guys in your position fighting people that are 7-13, right? I mean, this guy's got a lot more professional experience than you do, and his record's not the best. I mean, not downplaying him at all, but like going in there, I mean, you had to feel pressure to not just win, but win impressively. Did you feel that? And is that something that kind of goes through your mind if you take a fight like this?
You know, that's a really good question. There are definitely times where I can feel like that pressure of like, okay, well, he's, you know, 7-13, you know, he's lost 13 times, you know, whatever. You have to beat him impressively. And I've kind of learned, because I used to put a lot of pressure on myself. I've learned throughout, you know, this time of my career to not do that, to kind of just allow myself to let the fight play out the way that it will, and whatever it is how it will go. It's difficult to say, you know, that I didn't feel pressure, that I wasn't nervous or anything like that. But no, it definitely was something that I try my best, you know, impact the way that I feel about fights or anything like that.
Do you see a lot of guys in your neck of the woods, like in your region, that step up and take fights like this, or is it more where they're a little bit more cautious? They don't want to take a fight that might not benefit them in a big way.
You know, it's definitely difficult at my weight class to find fights. 185 is already a very small pool of guys. You know, it's not like the 155-pound division or the featherweight division where you've got, you know, so many dudes. It's like it's hard to find people fights just because, or it's hard to not find people fights. Excuse me. But in this case, I went through. I was scheduled to fight for like the past, you know, over the course of like four months. I had 3 different fights scheduled, and they all fell through at some point. So thankfully, this time they were able to, Shamrock was able to find me a fight. So to answer your question, yeah, I would say that in this region it does seem like some people can be a bit cautious. But you know, I don't blame them. I work hard, I train hard, and you know, if I look at my skill set on paper and just from an outside perspective, it's definitely not an easy task, not an easy fight for anybody.
Sure. Yeah, fair enough. Shamrock FC is clearly one of the best regional promotions in the country. What is it like fighting for them? I know they put on a great show.
They really do. They really do put on an awesome show. Their production value is awesome. You know, like I have a lot of people who, you know, a little bit more casual fans. They kind of just show up to watch me fight or show up to watch their friends or family fight, and um, they might as well think it's the UFC. I mean, they think that everybody on those cards are the baddest dudes on the planet Earth, and Shamrock really does do a great job of promoting that, and their promotion, their production. It's all very, very well done.
How'd you celebrate this win, Jackson? Anything in particular as far as food, or did you have an adult beverage or two?
Oh, I may have had a couple too many. I will be honest for the adult beverages. But you know, for indulging in food, I always love to eat a good pizza. Pizza is just it's one of those things I have to deny myself most of the time. So when I'm able to indulge in it, I take every opportunity.
I know 100% what you're talking about. Greg can verify this. I'm a pizza guy. I love pizza. I can eat pizza every day, but I'd look like a pizza if I kept it up.
Right. And you know, it's unfortunately I can't you can't have it every day, you know?
Yeah, it's got to be a treat. Well, you deserved it, hence the win. So I know my guy Greg has some questions for you.
Yeah, yeah. And I love pizza, man. I'm from New York, and New York pizza is the best. So I don't know what it's like out there in Milwaukee, but you got to get to New York, try some of that New York pizza.
Absolutely.
Hey,
Uh,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. I
Yeah.
was just gonna say that I was. I'm sorry. I was just gonna say that I'm actually out in St. Louis,
Oh, you're in St.
Milwaukee.
Louis.
Yep, from St. Louis. Yep.
Oh, cool. Oh, you must get some good pizza out there.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, your amateur career, you said that you started BJJ when you were 13. So obviously your amateur career, you like finishing everybody in the first round with submission, first round. Like you don't really see like a second round very often in any of your fights, even your 4 pro fights. I think you got like what one, they all look like first round.
Yep.
So,
Yeah. All of them have ended in the first round. Yeah.
and one in your amateur career went to a decision, right?
Correct. Yep.
So man, you know, that's impressive in itself right there. So you started out obviously submitting a lot of people. Then in your pro career, you got a couple of KOs and you softened the guy up in this last fight. How did you make that transition to striking? And how do you feel about striking? When did you start doing that? How long have you been striking, and how'd that transition come about?
Yeah. You know, so you know, back in 2020, so I'm originally from Minnesota, and I moved down to St. Louis back during the pandemic. I just decided one day, hey, I'm going to go ahead and move down there because just wasn't quite getting the training I felt I needed. And, you know, I felt like my striking was definitely something that I needed to work on quite a bit. So I've just been really, really working a lot with my coach, Jake Roberts. Also worked with coaches like Jimmy Donahue over at St. Charles MMA, and having like coaches like Mike Rogers as well. It's really cool to have those guys around. But um, I have fallen in love with striking. I've fallen in love with Muay Thai and the elbows, the knees, the kicks, everything. I love it. I'm almost liking it more than grappling, honestly. Obviously, I'll never forget my roots, but it's one of those things where when you really when I really allow myself to kind of get lost in it, it's hard to enjoy anything else, man. Striking has really become a second love for me.
If you're a 6'4" rangy 185er who's got really good BJJ and then embraces striking and falls in love with Muay Thai, you're a very dangerous man. That's a
Thank
really
you.
well-rounded skill set, and so I give you a lot of kudos. I'm a former coach, and it sounds like when you were talking to Ryan before that you're in a place right now where you're really willing to just let your mind go and the fight goes wherever it goes. And that comes with the confidence and knowing you're proficient on the ground and on your feet. So it's really good to hear that kind of maturity. Have the older coaches helped you get to that place and that mindset of being able to really just embrace the fight wherever it goes and feel confident?
Absolutely. I would say that you know, with my coaches Jake Roberts and Mike Rogers, they've both really helped instill this level of confidence in my preparation. They you know, they're hard on me, obviously, with my training, but they're also, you know, very, very complimentary as well. You know, telling me you're doing the work that you need to, because I'm one of those guys that, I'm not sure if you experienced this with as a coach, but you know, I'm one of those guys that I will overwork myself. I will work too hard to the point where I'm injured or I'm too fatigued to get like the best out of training. And they do a great job of, you know, picking out the days where, all right, today we're gonna red line, we're gonna go pretty hard today. And then there are other days where, you know, all right, you're good for today. You worked hard, keep it up, man. And to give me that kind of hunger to keep coming back and not get burnt out like a lot of guys do.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I have experience. It took me a long time to realize how to pace a fighter. And a lot of people think if you just do the hard work all the time, at a certain point, it gets counterproductive. And there's thresholds and lines to, you know, pull back before a fight. Like I give my guys certain time off, and we time everything there. So yeah, man, that's great to hear. I've got one more question. I'll give it back to Ryan. But your nickname's the Moose. How'd you get that? I think that's why I said Milwaukee, because you're the Moose, and I'm thinking like we had the monopoly up here. I got him on my property. I'm in northern New Hampshire. He's in Maine. I mean, this is like Moose country. So how'd you get the name Moose, man?
Well, you know, Minnesota also has some moose up there. It's up in northern Minnesota, closer to Canada. But you know, people my whole life, like my mom, she's always called me and my brother, we're both pretty big dudes. We're both 6'4", just big guys. She's always talked about, I get, you know, that kind of thing, and that came from there. But people have also, you know, I got long hair. I'm from Minnesota, big hairy dude. People just called me Moose.
Jealous of the hair, but go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah,
thank you.
I like it. The nickname's perfect. So St. Charles MMA, isn't that T Woods gym? Isn't that where Tyron Woodley trains?
Tyron Woodley did train there for a very long time. He did train. He originally started out at St. Charles MMA with Mike Rogers. Mike Rogers was, I believe, his high school wrestling coach. But then I believe he then transitioned over to American Top Team and then Rufus Sport. And now I don't know where Tyron's training.
Okay. Have you ever met him? I'm sure he's probably been around the gym.
I wish I could say I have, but no, I've never met Tyron Woodley.
Oh, okay. That's surprising. For whatever reason, I thought he was around from at least from time to time. I mean, I know he went down to Florida and he was training a lot there, but for some reason I thought he was there at St. Charles. Oh, too bad. That'd be nice to have him around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It really would.
You're a middleweight, 185. What is that weight cut for you to get to middleweight?
You know, it's kind of funny. Middleweight, especially in the beginning when I didn't quite have my diet and my ritual for cutting weight down, it was a struggle. I mean, it was like pulling teeth. There were times where, like, you know, I would have to be carried out by my coaches from the sauna. But thankfully I've figured out a better way of cutting weight. So it's generally, it's pretty, obviously it's not fun, but it's definitely a much smoother weight cut now.
How heavy do you get? Like, what's the heaviest you get?
You know, I wouldn't consider myself a super huge middleweight by any stretch. I normally am walking around 205, 210.
Okay, so that's a pretty standard cut. I see you got the Anthony Edwards t-shirt on. Are you a hooper? Did you play basketball?
I do. I'm a big basketball guy. I love the Timberwolves. You know, I'm from Minnesota, so seeing them make it to the NBA Western Conference Finals, dude, that was amazing. I see you're a big Celtics fan.
Just a little. Yeah. It's
a good team, though.
Yeah, no, for sure. Who knows? We might be facing one another in the finals next year.
You know, I can certainly hope so, and I couldn't help but root for Boston in this most recent finals. Personally, I not a big Luka fan, but I really like Jason Tatum. He's a St. Louis guy. I moved down to St. Louis. I couldn't help but root for him.
Yeah, and I'm not a big Kyrie fan. I'm sure that comes as a shock to you.
I don't know why, but I think I can think of a few reasons why you might not like them.
Yeah, yeah. I'm so happy. It's been so long since we've got a championship. Greg knows. We went to, what was the game we went to in the
Miami playoff game. Yeah.
Miami? Yeah, but 2 years ago we saw him lose to Miami, unfortunately, at the Garden. So now we're having better times. Jackson, last thing before we transition and we do some fight picks for this upcoming card here the UFC has in Vegas. You're 4-0 now as a pro. You're a big prospect. What do you see for yourself here moving forward as far as your goals go?
Well, right now, I have another fight scheduled already. I didn't really take a lot of damage for this last fight, so I'm going to be going in September 20th, back up to the home state of Minnesota, Mystic Lake, at the Mystic Lake Casino for LFA, where I'll be fighting this guy by the name of Ben Fowler. Just signed the contract, and tickets are now on sale if you are interested in going. That's what's next. But if all things go according to plan, absolutely the Contender Series I would love to do that. That's been my dream since I was 13 years old, was fighting in the UFC and being a UFC champion. So absolutely getting on that Contender Series, getting in the UFC, that is paramount.
Would you be disappointed if that opportunity didn't come and you had to fight for Bellator or PFL? I mean, or is it kind of like UFC or bust? That's what I hear from a lot of guys in your shoes.
I don't want to say that I would be super disappointed. Obviously, to me, that's like getting to the NFL. That's like what every kid dreams of, So obviously, I'd be a little disappointed I never got to the UFC if that never happened. Though I don't see that not happening for myself. But of course, there are good promotions out there as well. But I would definitely say that the UFC would be number one by a long shot on that list.
If you had to, I guess, give me a guess here, is how many fights away you think you are? How many fights do you think you're going to have to get victories in before you get that shot?
I would say 2 or 3 more. 2 or 3 more. If I keep finishing guys in the first round, if I keep putting on these dominant performances and be as undeniable as I possibly can be, I think 2 or 3 more fights, and I keep marketing myself and doing these interviews with you guys, who again, thank you so much for having me on. I think 2 or 3 more fights.
That makes sense. You're seeing a lot of fighters too in Contender Series 6-0, 7-0. So that would really put you right in there with a lot of the guys that are making their first shot in Contender Series.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I'm just kind of following. There's a little bit of like I would say a blueprint that's been kind of made now, I think, especially with, looking at the Contender Series, it definitely seems like there has been like I said, a blueprint to kind of, all right, get these steps out of the way, fight these certain fighters, test yourself in these different ways. That will lead to a Contender Series shot, as well as obviously connections, man. Connections are so important.
Go ahead, Greg.
It sounds like you're really connected with Ed Soares. That's great. But what really stands out to me is your first round finishes. Everything from your amateur career to your pro. You got one fight that went the distance, and the UFC loves that. I know that for a fact. So, if I was promoting you, I'd be highlighting that fact big time, because you're a finisher. Everybody loves that, man. So, you're a hot prospect, and great. Best of luck to you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
One last thing, Jackson, before we make some fight picks for this upcoming UFC card. Tell me a little bit about how you see this upcoming fight with LFA going. What do you think of your opponent? What kind of a fight are you expecting?
Man, Ben Fowler. He's 6'3", so another tall, lanky middleweight. He is 3-2 as a pro, but he's fought guys such as Brian Battle. Brian Battle was his pro debut. If that tells you anything. So he's a very he fights tough guys. If you watch him fight, dude comes to bang. That guy is Ben Fowler is no joke. I am not taking this fight lightly whatsoever. He's going to be, I believe, one of, if not my toughest fight to date. Jiu-jitsu black belt. He coaches MMA as well. This is going to be a very, very good fight. I'm very excited for this one.
You got a prediction for us? How does it end?
I think I see this fight. This fight could go 3 rounds. He's this tough. I could see him pushing me to 3 rounds, but I see a second round finish.
Okay, so we're getting out of the first round into the second. As long as you get the victory, that's all that matters. You got to move to 5-0, continue that climb to the big show, which is I know what you want. Well, very cool. I can't wait to watch you fight for LFA next. I'll have to make sure I put that on my calendar. What do you say we transition and talk about this UFC Vegas 94 card, guys? It's headlined by a big female bout, Amanda Lemos, Virna Jandiroba. It's pretty close as far as the odds go. Jandiroba right now is -135, Amanda Lemos +115. Let me start with you first, Jackson. Do you have a pick on this one? Who do you see winning the main event?
I'll be honest. I haven't paid too much attention to this main event, honestly. That's just, there's so many fight cards going on these days and everything like that. I know more about Lemos, quite honestly. So I'll pick her just because I'm more familiar with her. That's about all I can give you for that fight.
Gotcha. And she's a striker. She's got some power. Greg, what do you think we're going to see here?
Yeah, I agree with him. I'd say Amanda Lemos, the underdog, slight underdog. I like her. The other lady is very tough. I've seen her fight a couple of times, and Virna is amazing. I mean, she's tough and probably rightfully so, the favorite. But as we know, anything can happen. I like Amanda Lemos' striking a lot, so I'm going to go with her by KO round 2.
KO.
Just like Jack. Yeah.
Round 2.
From a betting perspective, I'm staying the heck away from this one. I think it could go either way. I honestly think it's going to go the distance, and it's going to be one of those fights where you could see either lady getting their hand raised. I wouldn't even be surprised if it's a split decision, because I favor Jandiroba if it goes to the ground. I favor Lemos on the feet, but I think it's going to be up and down. I think it's going to be a really interesting main event fight. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm not touching it with a 10-foot pole as far as betting goes. Co-main event, though, you're going to know a little bit more about these two, Jackson, because this is your weight class. Brad Tavares,
sure is.
Jung Young Park. Tavares, the veteran fighter, he's almost 40 now, I think. He's +140 as the underdog. Park is the favorite, -160. Do you think Tavares pulls the small upset here?
I've been watching Brad Tavares since I was probably 14 years old. So, there's a part of me that's like, you know what, let's do it. Come on, Brad, let's go for nostalgia purposes. But I'm going to be honest, man. I think that it's a transition fight. I think Park's got it. I really do. I think that Father Time is undefeated, and Brad Tavares, as much as I love watching him fight, I think that Park's got this one.
Greg?
That's interesting, because when you talk like that, I think about Andrei Arlovsky, right? Like, my heart's always like, Arlovsky, man, like, pull this one out for me, please. And last fight was, his last fight. It wasn't beautiful. It wasn't pretty, but and Father Time did catch up with him. I think Tavares has got one more left. I'm going with Tavares, his second leg of my parlay with him and Amanda Lemos. So Tavares, Lemos, and that'll be 4-1 for both of them. They're slight underdogs. So my two dogs, I love my dogs. So underdogs at the top of the card, those two 4-1 for the money line.
I wouldn't be mad at all seeing Brad Tavares win, especially with +140 money. I might sprinkle a little bit on him in a parlay. I will say this, guys. Tom Brady took Father Time and put him in a headlock and made him tap. So Father Time doesn't always win, or at least, right now he still hasn't finished Tom Brady. He come back and play.
He catches up to them. Father Time's a mother.
What do you think about that? Obviously, I mean, you've already referenced football a little bit, Jackson. Do you follow like the NFL still?
Oh, of course. So as a Vikings fan, things are getting pretty exciting. I'd say, we got best wide receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson, on our team, and we recently signed some pretty solid offense. I'm a little concerned with our QB pick. I mean, maybe not concerned. I'm just, as a Vikings fan, it's been full of heartbreak. We're not used to winning Super Bowls like the Patriots. So I'm excited I'm excited, and it's I still obviously pay very close attention, but I have to always guard my heart with the Minnesota Vikings.
I understand. I'm a diehard football fan, just as in the NBA, so I get it. But I'll tell you what, you're right. You have the best receiver in the league, Justin Jefferson. So, and you have some other nice pieces to work with. So you guys will be all right. This next fight, guys, I have circled. It could be maybe the fight of the night. I'm really intrigued to see how it plays out. And I'm talking about Damon Jackson and Chepe Mariscal. Damon Jackson, pretty sizable underdog here, plus 190, and Chepe minus 225. Greg, let me just start with you here first on this one. I'm really intrigued about this one. I love Damon Jackson. I understand how good Mariscal is, but I mean, we've got a lot of tape on Damon Jackson. We know how tough he is. Is the odds, are they right here?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Do you like Mariscal? I love him. I love him in this fight.
Oh, you do?
Are you going with Jackson?
I mean, for that money, for plus 190, I would definitely put Damon Jackson in a parlay for sure.
Well, that's interesting. I'm thinking the other way. I'm going with Mariscal.
You think he finishes him?
I don't know if I bet on this one at all. I don't know if, I mean, I feel what you're saying, but I don't think it's, I don't think, for me, Mariscal will win. I'm not sure how, but it's not a fight that I want to bet. I have another fight further down the card that I'm really interested in, and betting with my heart on that one a little further down. We'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, this is not what I'm staying with, but I would have to go with Mariscal.
Okay. Jackson, what do you think? Do you have any thoughts on this fight?
You know, Mariscal, I personally like. I'm with Greg. I'm going to lean towards Mariscal in this fight, but Damon Jackson, he's the leech, correct?
That's right.
Yeah, so he's been around forever, man. I mean, I remember, again, he's fought on LFA countless times. He's had a couple stints in the UFC. He's definitely a live dog. I would definitely agree with that, but he's chinny is the one thing that I'll say. I think that when he gets hit sometimes, I mean, he's been knocked out how many times now? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think I'm going to go with Mariscal just for the fact of the power issue might be the thing that puts Damon Jackson away.
Okay. Well, I'm really excited about that featherweight bout. That's going to be a fun one. Another good one here, guys. Steve Garcia, Sung Woo Choi. Garcia's your favorite. The Mean Machine, minus 145. Choi, plus 125. Jackson, where are you leaning on this one?
I'm going to go with Choi. I like Choi on this fight. I think that he's got it, but you know, obviously this is MMA. Anything could happen.
Greg?
Garcia decision. That's the beauty of this. We get to go back and look at it next week after this is over and go, I got you. You were right. You were wrong. I'm going to go with Garcia by decision.
I feel pretty confident about Steve Garcia in this one. I like him. He's tough as nails, and he comes to bang. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets a finish here. He really has impressed me his last couple of fights. I feel like he's turning a corner. We'll see if he can get this win over a really game Sung Woo Choi. That'll make a statement for himself in this division. Now, like you were saying, Greg, you have a bias in a fight a little bit further down this card. I kind of have a little bit of a bias in this next fight because I know Kurt Hollabaugh pretty well. I've been fortunate enough to interview him a lot over his career. And he's taken on Kanan Kruszewski, who is the favorite, minus 135. I'm just going to call him Kanan. I'm not going to try and pronounce his last name again. Hollabaugh's the dog, plus 115. Jackson, do you think there's some dog money on the Ultimate Fighter winner, Kurt Hollabaugh?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't expect Hollabaugh to win the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, he's a tough guy. I didn't expect him to win, and he surprised the hell out of me. So I mean, I'll never pick against Hollabaugh. So I'm picking Hollabaugh.
All right, he's with me. Greg, are you with me too?
Unanimous, brother. Unanimous. Let's do it. Let's get there.
All right, 3 for 3. We're all on the same page on this one, finally, and it's the guy I was hoping we would be, Kurt Hollabaugh. Flyweight division next. Cody Durden, Bruno Silva. I mean, it's essentially a pick 'em depending on what site you're looking at. Right now on Bovada, Bruno Silva is a plus 102 dog. Durden's a minus 122 favorite. We know, Durden loves his wrestling. He's a great wrestler. He's good on the ground. If he gets, you in a compromising position, he can submit you. And I think Silva's got a lot of power on the feet. So this really could be a clash in styles as to whether it takes place on the feet or it hits the mat. Jackson, do you have an opinion on this one?
I do. I think Durden's grappling is going to play a little bit bigger of a factor, especially if it's at flyweight. Power, obviously, knockout power is a thing at flyweight, but I don't think it's as big of a factor as, say in like a heavyweight fight, right? So I think Bruno Silva's obviously very, very tough, but I think that Durden's his wrestling and his physicality is just gonna come through a little bit more in this fight.
Greg?
I think that's a pretty good analysis, but I'm going to go with Bruno Silva. He'll probably go off as more of a dog, maybe 150, 160, plus 150, 160 as the fight gets closer. And I like him. I do like Bruno Silva a lot. So I'm not going to predict the outcome. He is tough as nails. So maybe he squeaks out a decision or maybe he finishes, but I wouldn't guess that. I'd only play the money line for him and maybe put him in a parlay with, somebody else.
Well, it's a close fight as far as the odds go, so it'll be interesting to see what takes place there. Bill Algeo, Doo Ho Choi. Right now, Algeo's a decent favorite, minus 160. Doo Ho Choi plus 140. Greg, where are you leaning on this one?
I'm going to go with Algeo. I don't know a lot about Doo Ho Choi, but I like Algeo. From what I've seen in the past, yeah, I'm going to go with him.
I'm with you too. He's tall. He's rangy. He reminds me a little bit of you, Jackson, as far as like his build goes for his weight class. Do you see Bill Algeo winning, or are you going with Choi?
I think Algeo. I do have him winning. I think that he's, like you said. I think that the height difference is definitely going to be playing a big factor. Choi, I really like him, but he's just. I think if he were a little bit more composed in those firefights, he gets a little wild in the pocket and a little he leaves himself a little bit exposed. So I think that Algeo is going to be able to capitalize on those openings. But if Choi wins by knockout, I wouldn't be surprised. He's always got that one shot, but I got Algeo in this one.
Okay. All right. We're all on the same page again. I want to skip this next one because I'm going to circle back to it because I want to ask you about Brian Kelleher and Cody Gibson. Greg, we talked a little bit before we started here. I know you have an opinion on this fight. Cody Gibson minus 190 as your favorite. Brian Kelleher, the Long Island native, plus 165. What are you thinking here?
Well, I'm going against all convention here. This is going with my heart. First of all, I'm from Long Island, so Brian Kelleher, he's a Long Island boy. He's Brian Boom Kelleher. I really like the kid. He's great. A lot of people don't know he came up with in John Jones and Aljamain Sterling's gym. He fought for Bomb Squad up in upstate New York. That's when he fought one of my guys, and one of my guys had a pro debut against Brian Kelleher. Brian Kelleher hit him with one of the cleanest left hooks I've ever seen, just pop up using his legs, throwing a left hook. It was beautiful. Knocked my guy out. My guy was out so bad, man. I think it left irreparable damage to my guy, unfortunately. But I really like Kelleher. He's coming off a neck injury. I know I've been following him a lot. He's coming off a neck injury. He's had it rough. He's a tough guy, though, man. And I just like him. So I'm going with my heart. So it's something you shouldn't do when you gamble. So I'm not going to lay the house on him. But I am going to be betting sentimentally on Brian Kelleher, my Long Island Boom buddy, man. He's an OG. He's been around. I think he fought that pro fight in 2010. So he's been around for a long time, man. So I'm going with Boom Kelleher for the money line. And if you bet, I'm going to go with the knockout too. That's 11-1. So there's some big money there. Yeah, 11-1 for the. I know, man. I'll just hope he gets it done, because then it's twice as good if he gets it done, right? Like you hit the big money and you feel good for your boy. So that's not a good way to gamble, kids. Always bet safe, bet within your limits. Don't risk too much, but I'm going with Boom Kelleher. Boom.
Well, Jackson, let me ask you this. These guys have very different body types. Brian Kelleher is short, kind of, stocky, I guess, for the weight class. Cody Gibson is tall and long, very rangy. So very, very contrasting body types. Is that going to play a difference in this fight?
I would say so. I would say that Kelleher, I would say the biggest factor is Gibson's takedown defense. His takedown defense has gotten immeasurably better since he got out of the UFC and has come back. He's big for the weight class. He's not just tall. He's not just lanky and rangy. He's big for the weight class. If you've seen him in person, he's not a smaller average size bantamweight. He's definitely a bigger guy for that weight class. So personally, I'm going to go with Cody Gibson. I think he's able to stuff the takedowns of Kelleher. I'm sorry, Greg. I also see a potential second or third round TKO finish for Cody Gibson in this fight.
No hard feelings, bro.
Okay. Yeah. I'm kind of with Jackson, Greg. I hate to pile up on you, but
thank you.
Yeah, you're messing with my heart, my heart. I get it. We'll see. Come fight night. I'll be rooting, and I'll be maybe crying, maybe jumping up and down, but we'll see. That's what it's all about. That's why it makes this so much fun to watch.
So these next two fights, guys, I'm not going to give a pick because I just interviewed both of these guys, and I want to get your thoughts. Let me start with Haider Emil and Jung Young Lee. I just talked to Haider Emil. He's an underdog, plus 160. Lee is the favorite, minus 190. And Emil has kind of a chip on his shoulder saying, he doesn't feel like he should be the underdog. He thinks he's fought the tougher competition. Both of these guys have only had one fight in the UFC. So, we haven't really seen them at the top level for too long yet. Let me just start with you, Jackson, on this. Do you think these odds are right, or do you feel like Haider Emil is going to spring an upset here?
I think Haider Emil is going to spring an upset. I personally, I really do. I think that Haider Emil is very tough. Yeah, I believe, if memory serves me correctly, he had a very, very, very back and forth fight for Contender Series,
and he got the victory. Yep.
Right. Yeah. He got the victory in that one, and so I think that his wrestling and his physicality with that, and his ability to his ability to kind of roll with the punches, swing. He's able to roll and throw that overhand very well, especially that go right into his double leg. He's very good at following a game plan exactly the way he needs to. So I think his physicality and just size is going to help him quite a bit in this fight.
Greg, look at this guy. He should be an analyst. He's given us some great insight here. I love it.
Thank you.
It's great to see somebody who knows the fighters, and really pays attention to the game. Shows what a student of the game you are. That's awesome. I mean, even bigger fan now, bro.
Thank you.
So, Greg, what's your pick here on this one?
Well, I hate you guys for this because I'm going with Lee just to balance the Kelleher thing out. I'm sorry, man. But I'm going to go with Lee. He's jumped up to almost minus 200. So, people are putting money on him, and I'm going to go with him just to keep you guys honest on that one.
I mean, it very well could be a firefight. Both of these guys come out hot. They look for a finish. So it could be a very interesting, maybe fight of the night. You never know. Again, I just interviewed Trey Ogden ahead of this matchup with Loic Rajabov. And it was really interesting what Trey told me. He said that he doesn't think that Loic should get one punch landed on him. He says he's that much better than him. He thinks he's going to come in charging like a bull, like he normally does. He comes in, looking for a finish early. He thinks he's going to basically walk right into a takedown, and Trey's just going to do whatever he wants when he gets to the ground. We saw what Trey did against Kurt Hallbaugh in that last fight. Ogden looked really good. He stuck to a game plan. He got the fight to the ground, and he won it very convincingly. Jackson, let me ask you first here. Contrasting styles here. Ogden's great on the ground. Loic likes to stand and bang. What do you think we're going to see here?
I have Trey Ogden. I do. I'm going to have to go with Trey Ogden. He's from Missouri. Well, he actually fights out of Kansas now. But anyway, I think that he's a veteran of the game. I think that he's just a little bit more he's got a little bit more tricks up his sleeve than Loic does. I think Loic is a little newer. I think that this fight's going to really teach Loic a lot about just kind of the differences between what a veteran knows and what a newer prospect would know. So I think that I'm going to go with Trey Ogden in this fight. I think I see a 3-round kind of grappling fest.
Greg?
The current odds have it pretty close. Yeah. They got Loic at minus 118 and Trey at minus 102. So I agree. I'm going with Trey Ogden. Of course, he's got to, if he's not going to If he's not going to get the takedown, he's got to make sure to keep his head off the center line, keep moving, work for the takedown. But I think we'll get it done. Yeah, I definitely think we'll get it done.
All right. Well, he got a little backlash on Instagram after I posted that interview I did with him. A lot of people were basically saying, "Oh, you're crazy. Loic's gonna crush you and this and that." So we'll see what happens. I'm really excited about this fight. That's one of the ones again I have circled. Miranda Maverick's fighting Dion Barbosa. Honestly, guys, for my money, Miranda Maverick is one of my locks of the card. I just don't see any way she loses this fight. She's minus 225 right now. Barbosa plus 185 as your underdog. Greg, am I crazy here, or is there a chance that Barbosa wins?
You're 100% correct.
Yeah. All right.
I agree with you completely. Miranda Maverick.
Yep. We're all in agreement. Miranda Maverick.
All right, so that's good there. We've had a couple of ones where we're all in agreement. Two more to go, guys. Luana Carolina, Lucy Pudlova. It's essentially a pick 'em, depending on what site you're looking on. I'm staying the heck away from it as far as the betting odds go. What are you thinking about this one, Jackson?
Honestly, I'm not super familiar with these ones. These two ladies, unfortunately, so I can't really make a pick on this one.
Fair enough, Greg.
I'd go with Pudlova only because the last time I saw Luana Carolina fight, she looked kind of tired and kind of moving kind of slow. I mean, I think she's a really good fighter, but I think there was something really that bothered me about her fighting style a little bit. It was a little bit slow and plodding as opposed to being a little more twitchy, So I think that's a tough way to continue a career. Maybe something changes, but I'll go with Pudlova.
All right. And again, I'm staying the heck away from it. And this fight, I believe, kicks off the whole event. Muhammad Usman, Kamaro's brother, takes on Thomas Peterson. Right now, Usman minus 130 as your favorite. Thomas Peterson plus 110 as the underdog. Jackson, where are you leaning?
Well, I personally know Thomas Peterson. I've trained with Thomas Peterson. We're actually managed by the same manager. So I'm gonna pull a little bit of a Brian Kelleher with Greg here. I'm gonna go with my boy Tommy the Train. All right. I think that his wrestling is going to be a major factor. As well as I think especially his debut fight. I think he just got the lights got to him just a little bit, but I think in this one he's gonna be able to mix in that, with the threat of his wrestling, because he is such a good wrestler. With the threat of his wrestling, he's going to be able to work his hands in there because he's got some knockout power, just like every heavyweight in that division. So I'm going to go with Thomas Peterson, and I'll say unanimous decision. Actually, I'll go with a split. I think split decision, Thomas Peterson.
Nice.
Greg?
I'm going the other way then. Usman is going to be my Cody Gibson then. Brian Kelly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to go against you. I think, let's face it. I think the UFC benefits a little bit more if Usman wins than he loses. I'm not saying they're throwing Peterson to the wolves, but I'll be interested to see the fight for sure. So yeah, I'm going with Usman.
I'll go with Peterson, just to side with you, Jackson, for giving us your time today and coming on the podcast. And you know your stuff, man. You really were able to break down the fights with us. So you'll have to come back and join us at some point in the future.
I'd love to. Yeah, please have me back. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, man.
It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Another good show. Before we do sign off, Jackson, I want to give you the floor. If there's anything you want to plug or anyone you want to thank, anyone you want to give any shout outs to, the floor is yours, my man.
I just want to give a huge shout out to my sponsors, Imposed Will, Adam Meredith at Imposed Will. They're a great fight apparel as well as just regular apparel brand that I've been partnered with for quite a while. THCA, another newer company with the owner Sean Smith. Again, giving me a huge help with these upcoming fights. And of course, my coaches, Jake Roberts, Mike Rogers, and the whole gym of St. Charles MMA.